Okay, we got a couple of other slides of information we'll share. This might be, any other questions specific to what Josh was just doing?
Yeah. What if you shut down your computer? Do I get rid of you?
Yeah, so good question. So the question was, if we shut down the computer, do you get rid of me? Only what the question is, the answer is only when it's shut down. So one of the first things I do, I'll give you a quick war story. We have, this happens one time, this is one of those lessons you learn one time, is you work really hard to break into a company and then they reboot, and if you haven't done persistence, you don't have a way to stick on the machine, you lose access. And guess what you get to do? You can do that whole process all over again. Not a lot of fun. So I would say the first thing we do is we put away that whether you reboot or you go home for the day, we're right back there for the next time. So yeah, definitely would not get rid of us. And same thing with just home malware. I mean, its goal is money, and it wants to get information generally from you, and they want to be there forever. So they're going to put hooks in there so that they're trying not to be getting rid of.
Yeah, so when you turn on the power switch on your computer, it does something, right? Something loads up so you can start typing. Those guys know what it's going to do, and they put their little bit of software in that same area. So when the computer powers on, it goes and finds his software too and restarts it.
So how do you get rid of that guy?
So,
How do you get rid of him?
Yeah, the question is, how do you get rid of them? It's Robert loves this answer. It depends. It depends on how good they are, really. I mean, there's the common run-of-the-mill stuff. There's some, I guess, we'll talk about this in the user training. We'll jump into here in just a second. But if it's common stuff, AV might get rid of it. But
AV being?
Antivirus. Antivirus.
I'm Josh's translator.
Antivirus might get rid of it, but it's sometimes harder than that. And I guess my answer to you is it depends, and it depends on how good the adversary is. But a lot of the times it's having to know, looking where the right places are to find it. But I think without seeing it, I probably couldn't give you an answer just right here off the cuff.
This is something we talk to the clients about, is trying to figure out what type of threat do you need to be concerned about. Because kind of common run-of-the-mill hackers are not going to develop their own malware. They're going to reuse something. And a lot of times that malware gets identified by cybersecurity professionals. It gets loaded into antivirus software so that when it shows up on your machine, your antivirus software can see it and get rid of it. But more sophisticated attackers know that, so they use something that's not known yet, and then it makes it harder to get rid of. Yes?
What if you didn't have admin privileges?
What if you didn't have admin privileges?
Yeah, excellent question. So it would definitely make my life harder. I could still do persistence, I could still do screenshots, key logging, and we've been in those kind of situations, and it makes that engagement longer. I have to work to get admin rights. But again, we're really what we preach a lot to businesses. It is tougher, I would say, honestly, in the home environment, because a lot of products aren't geared that way, and that is, you really want to, what you're trying to reduce is the amount of time I'm in there without you seeing me. So because if you give me all the time in the world, eventually I'm going to find a chink in the armor and we're going to get in. But admin privileges definitely makes me get noisy and louder and have to work harder and gives you more time. So that's good if you're paying attention and if it's run-of-the-mill stuff that doesn't do a good job of checking. But if you have somebody that actually wants to get in and you give them all the time in the world, they'll eventually get past that. But yeah, good question. But yeah, that's one of some of our recommendations as far as like things you really should be doing, and we can go over some of the user stuff in a second. Not running as an administrator is definitely one of them. You make my life easy. You make that malware author's life much, much easier by running as administrator. It opens up what we can do so much more running as administrator.
So when Josh advises clients, not allowing administrative privilege on those local machines is one of the top 5 things. It is very helpful. But it depends, and those types of caveats keep coming in, is there is no single silver bullet. You really need to have a comprehensive strategy. So, what Josh and others do when they conduct these tests, they come back and they say, look, here are the top 25 things that we recommend you do. And they're prioritized. If you can only do one thing tomorrow, this is what you should do. This is what you should do next. And we work with clients then to start, working down that list And then it depends on kind of their risk appetite, their budget, as to how far down into that list they want to go. But you want to have layers. You want to have multiple speed bumps. Keep making it harder for the cyber criminals to move around.
Okay, good question.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you have all of your passwords just typed out on a sheet, and you have to put one of those into, of course, something you're ordering or whatever, you can still get it then, just by me entering it to that, to one of this company?
Yeah, that's right. So
Go ahead and repeat the question.
Yeah, so the question is if you had it all typed out, if you had all your passwords,
Yeah, I know
could,
that password file in there.
right, but you're still typing it out. So, but you want to know, can we get it if you're typing it out on the website? And the answer is yes, we still could, because if we're keylogging, and so short answer, yes, you could. Now, the little bit longer answer is most malware is not going to work like that. Like common, like your home malware, that if you get infected with something, it's not typically going to go to that kind of effort. You've got to do a little bit, like there's some intelligence behind what we're doing that most malware isn't going to have. And honestly, like probably one of the biggest things, one of the hardest things I have, I don't care if it's in a corporate environment or a home user, is really talking about passwords. Because it's not really picking the best and kind of the better. It's like picking like the awful or the not so awful, you know, because there's no good way on the password side. When you depend solely on passwords, if you type them in, I can keylog them. If you save them in a password manager, I can get the password manager. And so you're really picking what the least bad is. And we have one of the recommendations in our in our kind of home takeaways. Like one of the things you will have on the way out is just a quick one-page, here's some things you can do for home use. And one of those recommendations is using a password manager. But keeping it typed is fine. Like if you keep it, especially like offline, you just have to realize that it's not going to be invincible. I guess that people, most of the time, they want us to come in and give like an unhackable stamp. You know what I mean? Like, this is not defeatable. And at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, well, you're really trying to make as many speed bumps, like Robert said, as you can, and you just don't want to make it easy on them, if that makes sense. So,
And along with those passwords, again, different strategies, and it depends on, you know, if it's appropriate for your environment. But another strategy on that type of password protection is two-factor authentication. Again, it's not a silver bullet. It doesn't handle every situation, but it makes it a lot harder. And what two-factor authentication is, when I log in remotely to my computer systems at Dynetics, I have my password, but every time I log in, I also have to pick up my iPhone, and I put in a code on my phone, and my phone gives me a number, and I have to type that number in order to get access. Now, if someone captured that number, if they typed it back in within the next minute or two, they might could get in, but that number rotates periodically, and so that number expires, and it's not any good after a few seconds. So that makes it a little harder. Could Josh eventually figure out a way to get around that? Yeah. But, you know, you have this, this story about, you know, if a bear's chasing you, you know, and chasing you and a friend, how fast do you have to run? You don't have to outrun the bear, you have to outrun your friend, right? So sometimes what you're wanting to do, again, just make it harder so that the cyber criminal goes, this isn't worth my time. There's other people who aren't paying attention. Let's move on and find an easier target.
yep, absolutely. Yeah, good question.
I have two. One, to make it simple about getting the password, because if you came in, put like that, put the graphite pencil, you know where it's on there. But you didn't enough things like that.
Wait, so now, and what's the question?
To get the password, you're saying is you're doing update versions of Internet Tablet. You see graphite pencil going over, so you probably know that you're reading the whole line.
Yeah, so the question is, how are we getting the password? And yes, I mean, by keylogging, you know, I'm getting every keystroke you press.
Hey, Josh,
Yes, sir.
explain one more time what you mean, what a keylogger is.
Okay, yeah, fair question. So a keylogger is, kind of what it sounds like is it monitors every keystroke you make. So, I mean, it doesn't matter what you type, how long your password is, it's capturing every single keystroke. So that's when we land in a system and put a keylogger on there, I'm going to capture whether it's junk, and that's why I said, you know, a lot of times, you know, if we're reading email or reading what a person's doing through the day, I mean, you understand the cadence, the flow of what that user does to the day. So they open email in the morning, they do work from, this time to this time in Excel, and then they log on to this website at such and such a time. And in there, I'm going to see all the emails, all the keystrokes of everything, whether it's passwords or not passwords. So that's typically how we'll get that through key logging. So, yes, ma'am, I think.
Sometimes security questions that we have to answer, like for bank accounts. You put in a password, but you also have to answer.
Sure.
Security question.
Yeah, so the question is, what about security questions? Like if you go to a bank and it's asking for, what's your mother's maiden name, and what year were you born in, and what was your high school? I guess the short answer is that actually that definitely increases the bar. However, we've definitely seen where that is. I mean, if it's very common questions, what's your mother's maiden name? It's pretty scary. If I can get a little bit of information about you, I can pull up, you're pretty much your whole ancestor tree, at least back for a generation, probably pretty quickly. So if you're depending on mother's maiden name, what your high school was, and what year you were born, you're probably shot within about 15 minutes. So it kind of, right. So yeah, so it helps. I wouldn't discourage it, but it's like one of those. It's not going to buy everything. Yes, false sense of security. I mean, like I said, it's like antivirus. Don't stop running antivirus. Not what we're saying. Just realize it's again, it's that situation. It's not picking between the best and slightly worse. It's picking between the almost unusable to the I can live with that kind of a situation from a security side. So
Let's do this for a moment. We've got a couple of slides. We'll kind of wrap up this. And Josh has got some user training. And I think some of that training will probably address some of the questions that you're having.
Yep.
But we love the questions, okay? Because we want you to get everything out of this session that you can get out of it. But we'll put a little bit more information on the table and then get into the user training. And if we're not addressing a question you have, ask it. We'd love to hear.